Good evening. I'm Vex Calloway, and we are coming in hot on a Thursday that has not given anyone a quiet moment. Two major stories are driving the lead block tonight. Houthi forces have struck two Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea, the Ancelia and the Layla. Fires reported on both, and this is happening alongside a 12th consecutive night of U.S. military strikes on Iran, a standoff that is already bending global fuel prices. And on the other side of the world, Secretary of State Rubio sat down with Russia's Lavrov in Manila today. 35 minutes, ASEAN sidelines, Ukraine on the table. We'll get into what that actually means and what it doesn't. Now to Manila, where the diplomatic temperature is almost as high as the Red Sea. Rubio and Lavrov sat down today on the ASEAN sidelines, a meeting that ran about 35 minutes and produced precisely one official sentence from the State Department. They discussed the U.S.-Russia relationship and the need to end the war in Ukraine. Russia's foreign ministry was more expansive. Lavrov reaffirmed readiness for a political settlement, while also telling Rubio that further arming of Ukraine was, quote, unacceptable. But here's the pullback. This meeting doesn't happen in a vacuum. Back in Kyiv, Zelensky just gutted his own military command, firing Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi and replacing him with 43-year-old Major General Mikhailo Drapati, a drone warfare reformer, all while thousands protested in the streets. So the question any peace negotiator has to be asking right now is, who exactly are you negotiating with, and are they stable enough to hold a deal? Ukraine's military command is in pieces and being rebuilt in real time. On Tuesday, Zelensky fired General Alexander Syrskyi as commander-in-chief, bowing to days of mass street protests, and named 43-year-old Mikhailo Drapati as his replacement, a younger general CNN describes as representing a newer generation of military leaders who have forged their careers during the current war. But the blowback didn't stop there. The Air Force's deputy commander resigned in protest, warning the move would weaken Ukraine's air defenses, and this whole crisis traces back to Zelensky firing popular defense minister Mikhailo Fedorov on July 15th, a tech modernizer who'd clashed with Syrskyi over how fast to reform. Here's the pullback. Lavrov and Rubio are talking peace in Manila, but the command structure on the Ukrainian side just got gutted and reassembled in 72 hours. Any negotiator at that table has to be asking whether Kyiv can hold a deal together when it can barely hold its own general staff. Before we get to the break, there's a story that doesn't get the urgency it deserves. Southern Europe is on fire, literally, and it is killing the people sent to stop it. Two French firefighters, Wilfried and Anthony, died near Bordeaux's Marignac airport on Tuesday. A third, Alessandro Marchi, died battling blazes in Sicily. And right now, more than 10,000 people have been evacuated from the Gironde alone, with 50 separate fires still active on that island. Here's the pullback. We talk about climate consequences in the abstract, but tonight, 3 families have an empty seat at the table. And according to Euronews, wildfires have already torched over 254,000 hectares across the EU this season, above the long-term average, with the peak still ahead of us. Still ahead, the Red Sea is on fire, and oil is near $96 a barrel. Wall Street just had its worst session in weeks, with the S&P off nearly 2%. And European firefighters are still losing the fight in France and Sicily. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Block B, and we are leading where Block A left off, because this market story is the economic tale of the geopolitical dog. Brent crude pushed to nearly $98.50 this morning, according to Fortune, up about $30 from where it sat a year ago, and CNBC is reporting futures gaining 4.6% at pre-market, their highest print since late May. Meanwhile, U.S. stock futures are already slipping this Thursday as investors digest a rough earnings night. Tesla missed estimates, Alphabet spooked the market by hiking its full-year CapEx guidance, and IBM cut its annual sales outlook, all while rising oil prices fan inflation concerns that the Fed, sitting on rates at 3.5 to 3.75%, has very little room to absorb. Here's the pullback. This isn't just a bad day on Wall Street. The S&P has been range-bound for weeks as the Iran crisis keeps repricing the cost of everything, and the Fed's tightening bias means the market can't even count 2 stories, 1 through line. The world is rearming, and Tehran is making enemies pay the price at home. Reuters is reporting today that Greece's Security Council, KYSIA, is expected to give final approval this Thursday for a $4 billion Israeli air defense system called Achilles Shield, multi-layer, anti-ballistic, anti-drone, built around Rafael and IAI hardware, and it sits inside a €28 billion modernization plan through 2036, partly driven by that long-standing Greece-Turkey standoff. And while Athens is buying shields, Iran just used an executioner's rope. The NCRI reports that at dawn Wednesday, the regime hanged 26-year-old law graduate Mehdi Kanaki, sentenced by the Revolutionary Court in Karaj for MEK membership and participation in the January uprising, with Norway-based Iran Human Rights now counting 24 executions directly tied to that uprising. The pullback. Greece is spending $4 billion to keep threats out of its airspace. Iran is spending Block C. And we're opening with the biggest sports story of the summer. Now 4 days old, but the conversation is nowhere near done. Spain are your 2026 FIFA World Cup champions, defeating Argentina 1-0 in extra time at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on July 19th, with Enzo Fernandez's red card late in extra time turning the match. Fox Sports is reporting Spain claimed their second World Cup title in what was the first tournament to feature 48 teams, co-hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and the post-final fallout, particularly Argentina's conduct after the loss, is still generating heat online and in the press. The pullback here is this. The World Cup is over, but the structural story is just beginning. The U.S. hosted the planet's biggest sporting event while simultaneously running a military air campaign against Iran, managing a market in freefall, and fighting wildfires across the Atlantic. That context doesn't get written into from the World Cup to the hardwood, and the timing could not be better, because WNBA All-Star Weekend is kicking off tonight, right here in Chicago. And this is not the same league that came through town in 2022. The All-Star Game goes Saturday at the United Center, with Skills Night at Wintrust Arena tomorrow, and WNBA Live already running at McCormick Place as we speak. And the rosters are genuinely stacked. Caitlin Clark and Aja Wilson running with Team Spoon, Paige Buchers and Angel Reese on Team Coop, coached by WNBA legends Teresa Weatherspoon and Cynthia Cooper. Here's the structural story, and it matters. Axios is reporting TV ratings, attendance, and sponsorship revenue have all surged since 2022, and the Chicago Sports Commission says sports tourism alone generates over $1 billion in annual economic impact for this city. Here's where we close the block, and I'm going to use the pullback because the post-final fallout from Argentina is bigger than a brawl. According to Sky Sports via Yahoo Sports, FIFA has formally opened an investigation into Argentina's conduct after the final whistle. Leandro Paredes received a red card after the match for grabbing Spain's Eric Garcia by the throat, and separate incidents involving Nahuel Molina are also under review. This isn't Argentina's first FIFA probe this tournament either, with a prior investigation stemming from a post-match celebration involving flags referencing territorial disputes with England. Meanwhile, the structural story of this entire World Cup is now coming into focus. More than 6.8 million people attended 104 matches across 16 cities in the US, Canada, and Mexico. And the Christian Science Monitor is reporting the tournament's most enduring legacy may be harder to measure than ticket receipts, found in the cultural exchanges that happened in every. That is going to do it for us on July 23rd, 2026, a day that gave us Red Sea tanker strikes, diplomacy at the edge of a war, wildfires taking firefighters in France and Italy, markets rattled by oil and inflation, Greece rearming, Tehran executing its own young, and Spain lifting the World Cup while this country ran a military campaign 2 time zones away. The through line on every story today was the same one Vex Calloway always comes back to. Who pays, who decides, and what breaks next? And today, on every front, the answer was complicated. Thanks for being here. If this show found you somewhere useful, tell someone, and we'll be back on the desk when the news demands it, which, let's be honest, won't be long.